think in some ways me and my mum are quite similar. When she talks about being a teenager, she talks about she's never really into going out and stuff like her sisters. I think she spent quite a lot of time by herself, like quite content with her own company. I don't know if that was because she was shy or if she didn't like people or what, I don't know. She met my dad when she was like 21 and they've been married ever since. I used to think when I was younger that my dad was kind of the boss and that my mum did what he told her, but I think actually as I've gotten older it's the other way around, and that my dad is maybe a bit more, not louder, that's the wrong word, but maybe his personality comes across a bit more. I think she's a really strong woman, and I think this is where we are actually very different, because I remember her saying to me a few times that what she gets sad about is me and my brother, and if there's something wrong with me and my brother. And I know that she got, when I was ill and stuff, I know that she was sad a lot of the time and was really scared. She said that she struggled to relate because she'd just never been unhappy. She'd just always been happy. She was like, I do know what it is to be sad. I've been sad, but I've never been not okay. And so that's where we're really different. I think maybe I'm much more emotional than her. She doesn't really seek people out. Like, she spends a lot of time with my dad, and she's happy to spend a lot of time with me and my brother, but she doesn't really socialise with friends. She's got a couple of friends. I think people are just a bit of a nuisance for her, really. But it's not that she dislikes people. I think she just can't really be bothered with them because she's content with her own life. She's content with her own company. I think were something to happen with my dad, I think my mum would deal with it a lot better than if something would happen with my mum. I think she's just a lot more independent than I ever realised. I remember doing lots of baking with my mum as a kid. We had these 2 little red tables, like little plastic ones with pull-out legs and stuff, and I remember them being in the kitchen and we'd be sat at them baking. But it's funny, right, because my mum, I don't think she likes kids either. Funny that she would bake with us because she's not into baking at all. Like, she'll make apple cake if we nag her enough, because my mum makes a really nice apple cake. But other than that, my dad does all the cooking and all the baking and everything like that. My mum doesn't like it. She said to me that like babies aren't any fun, but toddlers are more interesting because you get something out of them. I remember my dad used to make our Christmas presents. I remember one year he made me a doll's house and my brother a labyrinth. They were both quite strict in some ways, especially when we were teenagers. And I personally think even now, like maybe too strict. But then I think they've both mellowed so much in the last 10 years that they're nowhere near as strict as they used to be. They were very traditional as well, which I think is part of why they were strict. Mum would knit our jumpers and stuff, although that stopped quite early on. I just remember at the time it felt like I was at odds with everybody in my year at school. It felt like we were just more old-fashioned. I think right now they're being really kind because I think if it wasn't for me being here, I think my mum would retire. And I think that's so generous of her and of my dad. But sometimes when I think about like how much my parents love me and how they would do anything for me, and I don't think I understood that before, it actually makes me quite scared and sad because that's enormous. It's almost like a weight bearing down on me, like these people love me that much. I don't really always know how to deal with that. Well, she wouldn't do it if she didn't want to. I think she's glad to be working so that I can do this. I hope I can pay them back somehow.